Hey everybody, thank you for joining me today. So today's video, I'm actually going to record and do the voiceover at the same time. I don't do these often, but on this particular one, because we're not going to be doing a lot of actual product usage, we're just going to talk about what is mixed media, right? So I came into mixed media um probably in the grand scheme of things just a few years ago, probably like 5 years ago. I really got into doing more mixed media. um on my cards I was really liking sketches, and with the sketches you don't always have to do mixed media. It's like papers, layers, and going more in that direction. And lately, when I started doing like more scrapbook layouts and stuff like that, I've gone towards mixed media more often because it is fun. It's that creative outlet, and there's so many different things that you can do with it. So, I just want to talk about a few things. I keep thinking of something and then I'll be like, oh, I should bring that out. So bear with me because I forgot about something. Okay, so on my desk right now, I have a little bit of everything, the typical things that you can use for mixed media, to create mixed media. Um, there's so many options out there for things, okay? And there's a lot of different creators that you can follow as far as that is concerned as well. But I just want to talk about, if this is your first, hooray, or, attempt at doing mixed media, I just want to tell you how simple it is to start, and then you grow from watching others and playing with the different um stuff that you may have in your stash already. Okay, so let's talk about a few things. So I have, first, a lot of times it's about the paper. Okay, whenever it comes to mixed media, you want paper that can handle if you're using wet materials, or if it's more of a dry mixed media. Um, it just depends on what it is you're doing, right? So if you wanted to use more like alcohol inks, or inks that you don't want to absorb into regular paper fibers, then you may need to look at, well, what other paper or non-porous options do we have? Like acetate, like vellum, like I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head right now. It's not coming, but those are probably like the two biggest things that I can think of, would be vellum and acetate, especially when it's in regards to card making. Um, you want that for those type of materials, right? And then when it comes to your regular cardstock, this is Nina. I want to say it's the Solar White, 110 pound. It's very thick. I don't know if you can hear that. It's not a flimsy paper. Like, you barely can hear that. That's the paper. So it's very thick. It's not flimsy like I'm trying to see if I can find a little small piece. I have a lighter weight. You know how you can hear it? It sounds more like a thunder or storm machine. When it comes to this one, you don't hear it. Yeah, that's because it's thicker paper. I just got some of this, and it's supposed to be, yeah, this one is probably more 80, because you can hear a little bit more of it. But the weight of the paper will determine how much it can handle sometimes, as far as water, wet materials like your paste and stuff like that. Um, if you're using a paper that is a lighter weight, like your um, pattern papers and stuff like that, you just want to gesso first. And I have done an episode already about the different gessos. I thought I still had one here. I think I wound up taking it to work. But Putting a layer of gesso on your paper helps give you a protective layer so it doesn't sink right into the paper fibers right away. And that allows you to do more mixed media on papers that really aren't meant for mixed media. Okay. But we're just going to talk just a regular paper. I think it's important if you're using wet materials to get a heavier weight. And if you're doing anything like alcohol inks, alcohol markers, and you want to create a background or something, then you want to look for more non porous papers. So that way you can get really more of a mixed media effect than if you put it on regular cardstock. So that would be my first thing. What is it that you want to use on your mixed media and what papers do you need to create it, right? If you're doing a lot of watercolor, then you may want to get watercolor paper. Paper especially designed to handle that much water. You can do that and you can put watercolor paper on top of cards. It doesn't matter. It's all in what you're using to create. My other favorite tool is probably stencils. I purchase these more than I think anything else because they're so versatile. You can use them on layouts, you can use them on cards, you can use them on projects if you wanted to create a border on your wall. You know what I mean? Like you can just they're not just for the craft room. You can use them for anything and they last as long as you take care of them. Even if you don't, I know there's people who don't clean them like others do. I tend to try and clean mine right away, but I have a few that I didn't. Oh well, I keep using it. It still has pieces of glitter on it, but some of it, I just keep whenever I go to clean it, I keep trying to clean it off. If it comes off, great. If not, let it dry and then use it again. You'll be all right. But these are a good investment tool, especially if you're just starting out, because you can do a quick ink blend, right? And then stencil on top of it. Remember, we did this one, I want to say it was last week's, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Using this very stencil and we had uh some ink blending that we used with the new ink brushes, not all of these, but we used the Tim Holtz ones and we used some of these kind, or you can even use your typical, we all know this blender blending tool. And then we just took and did the darker color on top using the stencil, right? That's mixed media. That is mixed media. We have splatters, we have the two different coloring techniques, and it's super simple. If you wanted to, we could have put some enamel dots on here. That's another medium. That's what makes it mixed media. You're just using more than one thing, right? We didn't just color in the background and then put a sentiment on it. Okay. You know what I mean? No, we did this and we added this layer and then we put this layer. And next thing you know, it's a mixed media, right? So that's an example of that. Some other things that you can use when going towards your mixed medias. You have different ink pads, um, dye inks. You have oxide, which is like a pigment ink. These reactivate with water, right? So you can do watercolor techniques. You can do things like I'm gonna try and squeeze the lid on this, see if it'll put some on. It did. So you see that right there? You can take that ink, grab you a brush. I'm just going to grab a regular brush, but let's say you have a water brush. You can squeeze some water and then pick up the color right from here and color in on your paper. You know, I was going to try and see. I have this little scratch paper right here. I think you guys can see, but let's do this real quick. I just put a little bit of water down here on my glass mat because I just want to make my bristles wet. And then I'm just going to grab some of this ink. And then there you go. Now we've taken this ink and created a watercolor effect. And you can do that with any of, I know, the Catherine Pooler ink pads because they are very juicy. This one's not open yet. I was trying to see which one I had open. Okay, so this one, we're going to do the same thing. And there's the ink on there. And it doesn't hurt your container or your packaging. Now, I know we had the blue in here, but we're going to try and grab some water. Just going to pick up some of that color. And you'll see a little bit of mixture, but I'm just going to try and grab some more of this brown. And again, there's the brown with a little hint of blue because I didn't clean my brush, but it works the same exact way. Okay. So dye inks, great for that. Watercolor techniques, you can do all kinds of things with this. Not only stamping, with your regular stamps, just as a normal image, but you can stamp with this. And if you have the right paper, grab your okay. I was getting ready to say it, but you know what? I may have to just show you guys a little bit. Hold on. We're just going to do a little corner here. Tap, tap, tap. All right. And then we're going to put this right here. Okay, so you see that. And then let's grab the water again, just a little bit. And then we take but you can either, let me see, it might have dried too quick. Okay. So we stamped, but it didn't I took too long. But normally, depending on what it is, if you stamp with it and then go directly with water, you would be able to move it pretty quick. So let's try it again real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I was just trying to make it happen. But there you go. So you could kind of see the difference. So this dried really quick. So there was nothing to move with the water. But you can see how on this one, some of the areas are faded and some are stronger. That's because when I wet it, it started to move the ink right away. So then it's more like it's faded in the background instead of that sharp image there. Sorry, y'all. See the difference? Okay. So that's one of the fun things about dye inks and pigment inks and stuff like that, things that reactivate with water. That's a whole nother level of mixed media because you can do it dry or you can do it wet. Okay. So we talked about alcohol inks with the vellum paper. If you're going to use alcohol on regular paper, you just have to use gesso first. Tip. Now, the other thing with mixed media is embossing, right? So you can emboss stamped images, you can emboss through stencils. There's so many different things you can do with the embossing. And then depending on the project that you're doing, you have different embossing powders. You have the glazes from the distress lines that is more translucent, or you can have regular embossing powder and go from gold to silver to whatever color it is that you're trying to get to. So this is a level of mixed media. Okay. And then one of my favorites is probably going to be the sprays. right? There's a lot of sprays out there. I have mostly Distress. I have oxides. I have a few of the regular inks. But my favorites have been the Spritz that came out this year. Was it this year? End of last year. I've been loving the Spritz. I like the fact that you get the spray element with that shimmer. And then you have like on the oxides, you get that more oxidated coloring. Let me see if I can shake it up. Now, with most of these, they have the balls inside and you have to shake them around because it can leave a lot of the coloring down at the bottom. So you got to mix it up. Now, with these, it's a little bit harder to see, but I love these ones. Let me show you these guys. So right now, you can see a little bit in there. See how there's more of that dark blue? And as you shake it, come on, ball. There it is. You can see it now. It's more clear. Right? And you just keep shaking it until all of that pigment comes up. Shake, shake, shake. And then that is super clear. I don't know if you can see. You can almost see straight down, right? So a lot of that pigment is up. These, I think, are better for that. Like I said, on the oxides, they're a little bit cloudier, so it's hard to see. But you can get spritz and sprays in all different product lines. Nuvo has a bunch of mica, and they do the same thing. You can see all that coloring right there. Same thing. You just shake it up, get the ball moving, and it gets that color moving around. Okay. And then even Simon Hurley had some this year. These are his solar sprays, which were awesome. Fun to play with, especially on black paper, but you can still use them on white paper and it gives sort of like a halo effect. Very beautiful. Sprays. And listen, most of the time, all I do is splatter. But that adds a layer of mixed media to your page. You can splatter before you start layering things on. So you would do your whatever coloring technique. You can spray this on plastic or like little packaging sheets, right? To do the smooshing technique, you can go straight to page, right? Spraying directly. There's so many things you can do with this. You can spray through stencils. You can even spray on stamps sometimes. And like if you don't want it crisp, but you just want a hint of a pattern, that's something to think about. But there's so many different things you can do with sprays that I don't think it's a bad investment to get a few, especially your gold, white, black, maybe a silver. I think those four would be like the core. And then if you have anything that you do a lot of blues, then look and get into some of the blues. I gotta have them all. I'm in that syndrome, fear of missing out, all that. But it doesn't hurt. This one was walnut stain. I think I was doing like a vintage collection and it was browns, blacks, and whites. This was my splatter for it. Mixed media. All right. So I also brought out some things that you may not think about for mixed media. We're going to talk about that in a second. The last little bit, though, when it comes to different mediums, one that I use somewhat, I would say more on layouts than I do cards, is paste. You got textured paste, you got crackle paste. There's so many different pastes. You got the Glimmer from Nuvo, if you have any of that still around. That's like a glitter paste. The ones from Simon Hurley, which is like Astro and Solar. And then they also have, is it Lunar? Yeah, they have Lunar paste. So there's so many pastes out there. These, you have to be willing to have the time for things to dry with this, right? You can use a heat tool to make the process go faster, but if you're using this stuff, you have a little bit more time and you can use it, set it to the side, and let it dry. This is where things can get fun, right? Because if you're using something that's neutral, like blacks, whites, grays, then you can sometimes add color to them using sprays and things like that. Whereas if you use the ones from like Simon Hurley, it's already colored, right? So you have this paste here. You're not going to really see the color that well. You can kind of see it here where it's dried. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Which way? This way. Where it's kind of dried. But inside, it just looks kind of grayish, right? That's because that grayish stuff is the glue that's holding all that glitter. And when it dries clear, and all you see is the glitter. And it's just chunky loveliness, okay? These are very fun. And then you have these where it's more soft and creamy, right? And this one is interesting because it's just like the spray. If you put this on black paper, it's going to come up more blue. And if you put it on white, it's like a blue halo effect. It's really pretty. It's really pretty. Don't be afraid to use the solar paste on your lighter color paper. Really, don't be afraid because it does give a little element. It's like if you want a little bit of a background, but you don't want it to stand out a whole lot, these on white is the thing to do. Okay, so we talked about inks, alcohol inks, sprays, paste. Now let's talk about other elements. Um, Chipboard. You can put chipboard elements on your layout. Um, these are the flares. They count as elements. These are different parts of mediums, right? This is more wood. This has a metal background. You can use enamel dots. Like these are different things to add to the basically what would you call it? The decoration of the page or the card. Yeah, these are different materials. Mixed media. I'm going to keep saying it because sometimes people it seems more complicated than it needs to be. You know what I mean? And I just want you to see that the stuff you have in your craft room is enough to do mixed media. Now, the last thing, well, not last thing, but I forgot to mention washi tape. This can also be considered a mixed medium because you're decorating, you're adding elements to the page using washi tape. Now, I will tell you, if you're using any of the paste and you try to use washi tape, the washi tape won't stay on. So what I would do is either use a little bit of wet glue to just help it to kind of stay down and then use the paste like over top of it. You can do that. But this tape alone won't stay adhered to anything with texture. Okay. And then but you can think about that too. Those type of things. Washi tape, ribbon, string. I have this gold string here. Some people use all the different color like sewing threads. Use that. That's adding texture. That's adding another element to the page, making it a mixed media page. And then you also can use your twines. You know, because then you got paper, you got thread. Sometimes these are like a fabric. Um, Yeah, this one's sort of like that. It's a little bit thick. It's not like your regular washi tape. This is almost like a fabric tape. That's another medium. Now you're putting fabric on your layout. There's so many options. Okay, I forgot with the other mediums, watercolor. So watercolor, pastels, things like that. You're one of the same thing holds true that we talked about with the dye inks, the sprays, and this is that it's all going to matter like what paper you're using. You can use these colored pencils on regular cardstock. I would just be um maybe on the light hand when it comes to how much you're wetting the paper. So in those type of techniques, you might want to actually wet the pencil itself and then put it to the page. Um, there's different ways that you can get the color onto your project. And if you do watercolor, you put some paste and add some twine. We have a mixed media page, right? If you do some coloring with the color pencils, stamp using one of your stamps to create like a background texture, and then do some stenciling, mixed media. You can do some blending and then stamp in a matching color so it looks like you have more of a tone on tone background you created, and then do splatters using your watercolor pencils. Fantastic. If you don't have sprays, there is something else in your collection that you could use to create splatters, to create a background with. There's so many different things. I know you guys have seen, hold on. I just want to grab this real quick. This I used for my alcohol inks, so these are pretty much stained. But this I used with the watercolor pencils, right? So it's dry. You just saw. I didn't get anything on my hand from it. But all you do is put a little bit of water, take your brush, and just like that, you have ink again. And that's from the shavings from using, I want to say it was the black soot. If it wasn't black soot, it was close to black soot. Um, Colored pencil. Look at all that color. And that's from here. Just putting a little bit of water in here to reactivate it. And it went from dry to moving ink. Okay. And that's from these pencils. So if you don't have a watercolor palette, create your own. Grab you a pencil sharpener, just sharpen your pencils into each one of the wells, wet them, initially, and then let them dry. You don't want to soak them. You just want to wet them so that way they kind of like clump together, and then let it dry. And then once it's dry, all you need is a little bit of water to reactivate, and you got a whole palette of colors. I'm telling you. I, these I like these. I don't use them a whole lot, but I like these. And creating a palette with them is very smart. You would just need a whole lot of these small ones. I would suggest getting a bigger one from either like a hobby store or I think Tim Holtz had one that was like a big white, and you could put the colors even in that way. So good investment if you can still get them. I'm not sure if they're still available everywhere, but even if you can just get your hands on a few, you won't be disappointed. Okay, so we have that, and I showed you, or I talked about the stamping. Stamping can be a part of the mixed media. They have all different companies. I think All in Create has like those smaller stamps where you can create like splatters and background elements on your card or your layout. This one is a plaid from Pink Fresh, I think it was. Yeah, Pink Fresh. And you could use this to create texture. And what I love about these is you can put it on a block and have it be nice and sturdy. Or if you use it in your hand, you can like just get bits and pieces, you know. You know, you can do all kinds of stuff. There's no, it's dry. I'll have to clean that later. So, I mean, I think it's wonderful that what we do can really go for either way. A card is basically just a small layout. right? A scrapbook layout, you're a scrapbooker. Everyone always says, well, I scrapbook, I don't make cards. I'm not a card maker. It's like, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Trust me. You all it is taking that design and going shoo, and shrinking it down so that it fits an A2 size card, you know? I think that's one of the reasons why I like um taking like layouts challenges and turning them into cards, or taking a card sketch and turning it into a layout, to show that you can do it either way. This was an embossed paper front, right? I used an embossing folder, which is another element to mixed media if you wanted to, because it's giving this texture. I took an ink pad and drug it over top of this, right? You can do that on a layout. I know that maybe you didn't hear me in the back, but you could do something like this on a layout. You just do it as an accent piece. It may not be the whole entire 12 by 12 page, because we don't have 12 by 12 embossing folders, but you can do two pieces of like 5 by 7 cardstock, run it through and have two pieces and have that be part of your layout. The same thing I just did on a card. Do you know what I mean? So I think everybody can be card makers, just like I think everyone who does cards can do layouts. It's very similar in creating aesthetics. We like groups of threes. If you want elements that are odd, people like to put odd numbers on their layouts. There's so much that you can do on both sides. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So I'm going to end this video. I know this is just a little bit of things. I don't even think I've shown you everything. But if you're someone new starting off, trying to do mixed media, and you want to get to start to play, I would say invest in some good stencils, get you a good quality dye ink. I recommend Catherine Pooler's. I do enjoy hers, and there's so many, so many things you can do with it, watercolor wise and stamping. And or get you the stress oxides are better for stamping, but they work really great with ink blending and doing stencil work. So I started off with mostly Distress Oxide. I know the regular Distress inks work well too. Again, you just have to be mindful of what paper you're using. Okay. All right. So stencils and inks, start there. Once you have some stencils and inks, get you a couple of different type of blending brushes and go to town. Just start there. You don't have to worry about water. You don't have to watercolor. All you need is blending brushes, some stencils, inks, and you're good to go. All right, you guys. I hope you found this helpful. I would say tomorrow's video, what I'll try and do is create a video, basically doing sort of mixed media on the background and using a lot of like the basics. So I'll probably pick a stencil or the stamp, and maybe use the Catherine Pooler inks to show you what I was talking about. Okay. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a great day today, and I look forward to seeing you with our next video. Before you head out, please consider hitting the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I would so appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye, y'all.